All right, students, this machine right here is a table saw. I'm going to go over its basic operations and safety stuff today. But before I start that, I'd like to show you some of the features of the table saw. Table saw obviously has a table, that's why we call it a table saw. It has a fence right here that's adjustable back and forth to cut the width of boards you'd like to cut. It's got a blade guard right here that covers up the blade that's in the table. There's a riving knife. This little metal piece right back here is designed to fit between the cut that you've made. It's called a kerf. When the saw blade opens up a cut in the wood, this riving knife will keep the blade from keep the wood from pitching back closed on the blade, which would send the piece of wood flying back at you. We like to keep this down all the time when we're cutting. The table saw has an adjustable hand wheel on it for raising and lowering the blade. You can see that the blade is a little bit above that piece of wood right now. It can go much higher for thicker wood. It can go much lower for thinner wood. We like to keep those teeth sticking about a quarter to a half an inch up above the wood, so it's always above the wood a little bit. There's a hand wheel over here on the side of the table saw. And if you turn this hand wheel, it tilts the blade over sideways a little ways to make cuts up to 45 degrees. So we can cut angles in our pieces of wood here too. Those are the basic uses for the table saw. This machine will do many more things, but we're going to stick to doing rip cuts here, cutting boards the width we want them. All right, so that was the basic items on the table saw. I'm going to cover your 8 safety items for your quiz starting now. Number 1, the table saw is used for cutting boards to width. How wide we want them. I'm not talking about this direction, that'd be length. We're talking about width. So the table saw is for cutting boards to width. Number 2, the shortest board you should be bringing to cut at the table saw would be 10 inches long. This board's about 16 inches long. This one's about 6 inches long. We don't want to cut these little dudes. We'd like these pieces of wood to be at least 10 inches long if you're going to bring it to the table saw to cut it. Number 3, the narrowest cut you can make on the table saw is 1.5 inches wide. 1.5 inches. Okay? That means we can set the fence to 1.5 inches to make a cut. So you have a piece of wood 1.5 inches wide, but you can't go any less than that. When we make narrow cuts, we use push sticks. At 1.5 inches, this will fit between the fence and the blade guard with no trouble. If we go less than 1.5 inches, this push stick is going to get hung up right here on the blade guide, and you're going to be jammed up in the middle of a cut. We don't want that. So 1.5 inches wide is the narrowest cut you can make here. Number 4, before you cut wood on the table saw, you must first joint one of the edges flat. We've already covered the jointer, so this one we take the board and lay it on its edge, and we flatten out the bottom. And that jointed edge is always going to go against the fence when you make a cut. Number 5, keep the board flat on the table when you want to make a cut. So you're going to push down on it and against the fence. Okay, I'm going to move you so you can see that a little bit better. So when we cut, we hold down on the table and against the fence as we make the cut. Number 6, never let go of the board while you're making a cut. The table saw blade turns towards you, and if you let go of it, it's going to throw it right back at you. So if you run into a problem while you're making a cut, you get stuck or it just won't move, hold the board in place, turn the saw off, let the blade stop, and then you can let the blade guard and investigate why you got stuck. Number 7. After you've made a cut, I want you to let that blade come to a complete stop before you clear the scrap piece out. Number 7, let the blade come to a complete stop before you move the scrap piece out. And number 8, for any cut that you want to make that's less than 4 inches wide, less than 5 inches wide, sorry, 5 inches. Any cut that's less than 5 inches wide, you need to use a push stick. We have push sticks right here at the table. These are designed to hook onto the back of the board and push it, keeping your hands much farther above the blades so you don't get in trouble there. We have 2 thicknesses of push sticks. So anything that's 2 inches wide or wider that we're cutting, we can use this 3/4 inch piece of wood for push stick. Once you get under 2 inches wide, you need to use this skinny, thinner push stick so you can get this between the fence and the blade guard. Those are your safety rules. Those are the minimum. We'll cover more detail when you're here.